So first of all, welcome everyone. It's a great pleasure to talk from Portugal to the rest of the world, or at least to Canada and the US, most of the people attending here. And today we are going to talk about sleep. And the idea here is to talk about something that is, some authors say that is something like an epidemic, a silent epidemic, because we live now in a time where sleep is sometimes is a community. It's something that we take it for granted when we are little, but when we start to work, when we start to have a lot of things to do, we start to see that we need more hours to work, but we forget the importance of sleep. And it's quite amazing that if we close our eyes and wake up in the next day, it looks like we spend 8 or 7 hours without doing anything, and it looks like a waste of time. But what I'm going to talk today is to show you that there's so much things that happening when you are sleeping. And my objective is always to make this bridge between Western medicine and Chinese medicine. So the idea here is to showcase a little bit about sleep in terms of Western medicine and then transport that to Chinese medicine. For me, it's important also that you understand a little bit about what is sleep in terms of Western medicine, or at least how we perceive some of the diseases related to sleep. Because when you have someone that comes to you, to your clinic, and he brings you a report of polysomnography, for instance, you will have at least some tools that will help you to understand exactly what is happening there. And a good thing about what I can say for my experience and the experience of my colleagues is that it's good for us to have sometimes the same language as the Western approach. So it's important for us to know how can it, what is the deficiency of yin or deficiency of qi, how it manifests also in the Western medicine. So I hope you enjoy also this lecture. Like Lauren was saying, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat. I want you to be free in terms of asking whatever you need to ask. Don't get any questions that you may have in the future. You will have my email also in the end. So I'm always here to help, and I hope you enjoy this journey. So first of all, what is the objectives? Some of the things I already talked to you about. So the idea is for you to get familiar with some of the basis of sleep and in terms of integrative points. So we will do the bridge between both of them. And this will improve, of course, our outcome of our clinical practice. We will study some of the pathology itself. So, of course, we are not going in detail to everything. There's a lot of things in sleep. Sleep is probably, to work with sleep disorders is probably something that is not, we need to think outside of the box. There's a lot of things that happen in sleep that modern Western medicine doesn't have answers. And to be honest, neither do we. So there's a lot of things that we are still debating about what is happening. The science behind sleep is something very recent. So we are talking about probably 1960s, 1950s, end of 1950s, that we started to have laboratories in universities focus on sleep. Before that, everything was theories, everything was in the air, a lot of subjective thoughts. So there's a lot of things that we still don't know. So it's quite amazing. It's a world that is very amazing. And unfortunately, because of time, we are not going to parasonias, for instance. When you talk about somnambulism, when you talk about sonoloquia, when you're sleeping, there's a lot of things that we can do something in terms of Chinese medicine. And probably one of these days, we'll do a small community lecture about one of these subjects. So analyzing all of this fundamental sleep. So what is dream, the paradoxes of sleep disorders, the relation between sleep and, of course, zhang fu or ginseng and pathologic energies. It's very important. Sleep. Sleep is something that is biological. It's part of the human being. It's so important as eating, breathing, like sexuality, for instance. So this is our innate, and a little bit like the saying that you are what you eat. So by having a good habits of eating, for instance, this means that you have, or you are probably have, a good health on that aspect. So the same with sleeping. If you have a good night's sleep, if you have all of the routines, and we'll talk about some of the routines that you can have, that can help you, not only you, but especially your patient. Because to be honest, you'll have a lot of patients that come to you asking for advice regarding sleep. So sometimes it's not only about what point of acupuncture should I use for this treatment, for this disorder, but also focus on how can I change some of the habits that he has in order for him to have a good night's sleep. Because if you change some things, and believe me that sometimes a good conversation is better than a treatment of acupuncture. So the way that we change some things, the way that we adjust the way that you go to sleep, the way that you reduce the lights, the way that you create routines for you to go to sleep, all of this, and you'll see that they are very, very, very important. And there's a lot of research that supports that. And of course, if we have a good night's sleep, if you have a good resting, if you have a good life, of course, you'll live longer, you'll live happy and healthy. And that's the thing. There's a scientist that focus on sleep, and he says that sleep is your superpower. So if you have a good night's sleep, you can do a lot. There's even I don't know if something like this happens there, but we have a commercial that even today I was listening to it. So it's an old man bringing two babies up, and they are saying it's not a super grandfather, he's just had a good night's sleep. So sometimes if you have a good night's sleep, you can do a lot. You feel power. So this photo here of this man, it's a man that was taken in 1946. This guy is Ken Shimizu. He's 35 years old. He has two children, but Shimizu's never run. He sleeps late. He eats whatever he wants. He even drinks beer instead of water. Eats dinner with many kinds of food every night. What does Shimizu to get such a body? Shimizu doesn't have any secrets, because Shimizu is the guy that, in the end, back there, not the first one. So if you look at the body of the first one, this is a guy that probably goes to sleep very early and take care of him. The other guy, no, he doesn't do that. Okay, so imagine when I'm saying things like he doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep, you don't think the first one, you think the other one. Okay, so it's important to take care that sleep is it's something that brings our attention to. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about sleep. Thomas Dekker in 1632, more or less, before he died, he said, "Sleep is that golden chain that ties health and our bodies together." And it was very important at the time when he came up with this, because after that we had things like, for instance, Thomas Edison saying that sleep is something that is something that is it's like something that came from our cave days. That sleep is too much. That we don't need sleep. The guy had meetings at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. So what we see is that before the industrialized revolution, before you have light during the evening, there was a very close connection between sleep and feeling good, feeling empowered. Look at most of the documents or books from William Shakespeare, for instance. He's always talking about the importance of sleep, how sleep brings the eyes, the energy, how you can get involved. And then after that, we start to have a lot of people, and even in Portugal, we have a saying that says, the person that sleeps a lot learns less. And to be honest, that's not true. Quite the opposite. But there's a sense of this society that if you sleep too much, you are lazy. And that's one of the things that I think we should look at it, and we need to change it, because sleep is something that is important. It's not because you sleep less that you have more cognitive impact, for instance, and we'll see why it's not the case. We have a president of the Republic in Portugal that he was always saying that he sleeps 3 or 4 hours a night and he doesn't need anything else. But to be honest, the guy already have like 4 or 5 stents in the heart. He has a lot of problems in the brain. So it may not be only this, but definitely it's not working. It's not helping. It's not sleeping enough. So this is something that is very powerful that we need. We start to sleep very early, and even in our womb, the uterus, the baby passes most of the time in a state of very similar to REM sleep. So we start to sleep very early when we are still in a fetus. But we are seeing now that the society itself, we see a lot of people in buses, in airports, whatever, trying to get the opportunity to sleep a little bit, so to catch up on the hours that they didn't sleep at home. Like this lady, she bought the How to Sleep Well, and it's working. So she's reading the book and it's putting in practice. So imagine the quality that she's bringing up. We are seeing now that there are what they call sleep tourisms, where there are hotels that offer a menu of pills, of beds, of linen. There are some hotels that even they present you with a polysomnography, so you can do a polysomnography in order to see if your sleep is going, it's well or not. So this is something that it's growing. I must say that this is a hotel that is here in my hometown, Coimbra, and it's not a very cheap place. And you can stay there for one night and you pay like 500 euros. And it's a place where you can sleep in a bed that costs 50,000 euros. You'll have all of the bedroom is soundproof. They also have a reduce of electronic devices, so you don't have interruption of your sleep. They have a different kind of environment in terms of lighting for you to go to sleep. So this is something that is growing. There's a lot of these hotels growing and pop up in Europe with the focus of having a good night's sleep. So the tourism, imagine that you reach a point where you need to do a little bit of tourism for you to sleep a little bit better. And it's the reason is that 35% of the Europeans have been struggling to have a full night's sleep. So even in Portugal, for instance, 60% of the population suffers from alterations of sleep. 42% of the population in Brazil, in South America, are having problems with sleeping. And the same numbers apply all over the world. So we are seeing a lot of people that have problems in sleeping. And sometimes it's not about sleeping itself, but it's also the way that they feel after the sleep. So it's like you are struggling to have hours of sleep, but are also struggling to have quality in your sleep. Okay? And this starts very young. We are seeing today very a lot of children that they have problems with sleep itself. There's a lot of research that is being done, and I remember one that they were doing about if the school should start at 10 o'clock and not at 8 o'clock. They are saying that there's some link between you go to school and the beginning of the first 2 hours. There's a reduction of your attention, a reduction of your engaging with what is being said. When I was taking my course of neurophysiology, one of the things that I wanted to do as a project, my research project, and thank God I did do it because it would take too much. But my idea was to understand what were the best time for you to have an exam. So, for instance, imagine that you have an exam in anatomy that requires you to be very focused, or an exam in acupuncture of after a lecture of sleep. So it requires you to be very focused on what is going to be said, to read with attention the questions. So my idea for research were, if we did it in the morning or did it in the afternoon, what was going to be the results? Are we going to have better results in the morning or better results in the afternoon? Because the reality is that across the day, we change our this is the circadian rhythm. We change our perception. We change the way that we see things, the way that we are more active, the way that we are more attentive, and all of this is being studied and it's being looked at. And the children is one of the things that they are trying to change a little bit.